This
dates.
conference will now be recorded.
Let me move to the next slide, maybe. Let's see. Yeah, thank you. We have 3 committees so far: Active Transportation Committee, Safety and Health Committee, Regional Freight Committee. These committees lead into development of Metropolitan Transportation Plan, that is due in 5 years, but still there is a work that will go periodically and gradually towards the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Even in the next couple of years, when we need public engagement and open public house meetings, these committees would play a very crucial role in gathering data and information that had been worked for a year or two. So this is a great opportunity for data collection and presentations from various experts in our region, and those who are passionate about the certain modes of transportation system. So just to provide you when the next upcoming dates are. The Freight Committee, the next is January 13. Today we have a status update on freight study as well in the next agenda items soon. Safety and Health Committee is in February 3rd, chaired by Dr. Abla from University of Kansas. Active Transportation Committee on Wednesday, December 9. Alan and Jack Brown would be giving a report at the end of the meeting. So that's item on committee updates, and the next item on this report for you is an overview of planning activities in the MPO area. For the WAMPO, what are the major milestones that this policy body members have? With your leadership, we have approved Metropolitan Transportation Plan in 2020, and also the TIP Transportation Improvement Program for years 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. So, the transportation projects in the region, with the input from various communities and agencies, and under your leadership, this was approved and adopted. So this will happen again in 5 years, and then also the TIP update would occur in years 2022 and 2024. So those are the major adoptions, your approvals that we would be revisiting. And there are always other items that take place that would need your approval. But I just want to provide what staff is looking for accomplishing in the next 5 years in terms of major milestones. There is potentially the Metropolitan Transportation Plan amendments that could potentially happen in 2022. We will work closely with the KDOT and the team from the KDOT and evaluate when those are occurring as well. The MTP amendments needs some, the fiscal constraint analysis and EJ analysis, environmental justice analysis, to complete the MTP amendment process. So just wanted to provide a report on how in the upcoming years the major milestones are. And the year 2021, we have Transportation Improvement Program amendments, and then staff will be working on transportation data development in conjunction with various local jurisdictions and entities. So, the data is robust, that is developed for the MPO and the local jurisdictions as well. So that's a quick report on MTP and TIP under this item 2C. And there is the third item under this, that is North Junction project summary fact sheet. With your permission, Mr. Chair, our district engineer of District 5, KDOT, Brent District, would be giving a quick summary on North Junction. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great, appreciate it. Thank you, Brent, for doing the update. You let us go ahead.
Well, sorry about that. I was on another phone call. So on the update, I wanted to provide a fact sheet to be able to, everybody could utilize, talk about the project we have coming up at the North Junction huge project, lots of involvement. Of course, KDOT, City of Wichita, and Sedgwick County have a lot of interest, and everybody's contributing to this project. So I think everybody is pretty familiar, but the way this thing is set up, I don't know, we give projects colors because I don't know, we like colors, I guess, but the green one is a start, underway now. Green project is planning to be completed in November of 21. And like we've mentioned in the past, the green project really sets this thing up to work. It makes the additional lanes, makes 3 lanes in each directions on 235. The structures over the river are actually 4 lanes wide because they have to fit the on and off ramps going to Broadway. So that completes in the November of 21. Next phase to be constructed is we can't see my cursor, but it's the northbound I-135 loop ramp to go to southbound I-235, the tight loop on the north end. That will, the project will let in 21 to begin that accelerated phase. The accelerated phase, a $30 million phase. And that project is anticipated to take 2 years to complete. It's a lighter color on the sheet here, and perhaps the next slide, this might be the only slide we have, but it's a lighter color going up to make that one. The last portion and the biggest part of the anticipated construction projects is the gold phase, and that is the one for K96. It does a few things. It had a pretty big change in this project over the last year to take out a dual lane loop ramp, put a flyover in, really make the connection westbound 96 to northbound I-135 function so much better with the way that that's set up with that Y-shaped bridge there and additional capacity to go northbound. Also on the gold project, there's additional capacity added to eastbound K96. That's why you see the gold trailing along on K96 all the way over towards Oliver. There's additional capacity, additional lane being put in there and auxiliary lanes to be able to really a lot of the traffic in that movement through our Which Way Center, we've identified that improvement being made as part of the project would be very beneficial. So that's kind of a brief update on the project. And really, we just wanted to give a sheet that everybody could utilize to talk to your constituents about the project. Are there any questions on this project?
Thank you. And in the packet on page numbers 9 and 10, there's a high resolution and description that Brent had provided, for your information. Thank you, Brent.
Yeah, Jane, go ahead.
How much does it cost? What's the total cost of the North Junction? Is that an impolite?
I don't know. How's that for an answer?
You make me add pretty quick.
Brent, I've advanced and I got the numbers if you need them.
Thinking it's over 280. What'd you come up with, Gary, including the green project and the purple?
Well,
and the whole thing?
with the green project, it's probably around 250 million. The construction of the gold project, the full gold project, is around 86 million. None of those numbers I've got includes the purple. The gold project phase construction is 86 million. But by the time you add in full project cost for design and right of way, we start to approach almost $150 million. Adding the green project to that is 220. So if you're looking for overall everything, by the time the purple project's in, it's going to well exceed $300 million.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All righty, appreciate that. If not, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Anybody entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Ann and Bel Air.
Okay. All right, John, thank you. Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll type it in. Thank you. Motion carried. New business. Chad, WAMPO Unified Planning and Work Program budget.
Mr. Chair, this is UPWP is a budget document for 2021. There are a couple of changes that we received from KDOT to revise this document, so we made a note of that. In your packets on page number 52, there's a comparison of the budget tables between 2021 and 2020. 2021 budget was reduced to meet the 2021 year needs. One of the items in 2021 that's highlighted 880,000 and the local match of 220,000, and below that there is a total of 923,000. That was compared to the previous year. In the previous year, 2020, there is a 1,188,067 in the second table below. So the difference between the two was put just below the totals in the first table. This was a question of Council Member Cindy Claycomb as well. So I was clarifying that there is a line that does not have any description. So I was just want to clarify, even though that line does not have a description, it is showing the difference between previous year 2020 and this year 2021. What is the reduction this year? About 265,000 reduction was illustrated in that, but since there is no description of the line, so I just wanted to clarify that as well. Just below that, there is a regional asset inventory project, STP, that 180,000 federal funding and local match 45,000, total 225,000 on page 52. We discussed with KDOT team members that we would like to move that to year 2022, so that keeping in mind the local match solutions will occur in 2021, so that we were reducing as much as possible for the expenditures in the year 2021. So this is a summary of the page 42 has a summary of 2021 budget. There are some changes that were recommended by KDOT, and we are incorporating those changes, Mr. Chair. Any questions, I'll be happy to clarify.
Any questions? Hearing none. Hey, I did forget public comments. Does anybody want to make a public comment before we go on?
Dan, this is Becky Tuttle with the City of Wichita. I'd like to make a few comments if that's okay.
Okay.
I know that Chad and I have been talking several times, and I know that also our city manager and the county manager met with Chad and staff yesterday, and have just requested a little bit more documentation and then also a little bit more time to evaluate it. And so after other discussion, when the time is appropriate, I feel from the city's perspective at this point, and I think that my colleagues would also concur, that it would be our preference that this item be delayed until the December 8th meeting, just so that we can have an opportunity to evaluate some more of the information that Chad is providing to us regarding the financials.
Okay.
Hey, this is Jack Hislop. I concur with that wholeheartedly. As far as I can see, this budget isn't balanced.
Okay, so if it's okay, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion. Dan, would you entertain a motion?
Sure. Go right ahead,
Sure.
Becky.
Thank you. I would move that we delay reviewing and approving the 2021 WAMPO Unified Planning and Work Plan and Budget until the December 8th, 2020 meeting.
Second it, Jack
Okay.
Hislop.
Right, Becky and John, all those in favor of delaying this item until next month, say aye or type an aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So we will review this, and if any, I know city and county are in conversations with Chad on this. Any other members that need additional information, please feel free, call Chad, and he'll get with you and try and provide the information that you so need. So thank you, Becky, for that, and we appreciate you bringing to attention that you needed more time. So
Thank you very much.
This is Troy. Can I ask that we make sure that for those of us that won't be in that meeting, since this is such an important subject, that somehow we get a summary and any findings and fixes from that meeting so that we all have that?
from the city and county?
Yeah, when they meet with Chad to review this between now and then, I think it would be nice to have that info when we talk about it again. So.
Yeah, to have that sent to the members so we can look at the full document, you know. Yeah. And if we still have questions after the 8th, we'll call a special meeting before the end of the year and get those questions answered and go forward. Would that be agreeable to everyone, or anybody object?
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. Okay, where am I at here? Public comment, and like I said, I forgot that, so my bad. Anybody? Okay, we're going to move on to, let's see, the regional freight plan update. Deanna Wilkie and Sarah Clark.
Yes, let me pull up my presentation real quick. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deanna Winkleman. I work at Trans Systems. I was one of several people that was involved with the freight study update that I'm sure most of you are somewhat familiar with. This plan was completed back in August, just a couple months ago. Chad has asked us to continue to support the WAMPO Freight Committee on some of the hot topics that came out of the freight plan. So today I wanted to share, for your information, some of those brief updates, in particular how that relates to transload operations. As I mentioned, the plan was completed in August 2020. That is a final document. It is something that the Freight Committee is looking at every month as they go through their committee meetings to try to figure out how to implement some of these priority actions. So the last chapter of the plan, as you see on the slide here, highlights several different topics, modes of transportation, as well as items such as land use, technology, and partnerships. So each of these categories has different next steps to consider for the region moving forward as it relates to freight. As I mentioned, one of the topics that came out of this freight plan was an interest in transload facilities. Not only an interest, but just kind of some questions on what this meant for the region. So Trans Systems moved forward with somewhat of an educational presentation as well as some industry insights, and that's what I'd like to share with you today. There might be a quiz afterwards, virtual learning session, so pay attention. For your Transload 101, what is transloading? Really is the process of transferring a shipment from one mode of transportation to another. So in the Midwest, we are usually talking about the transfer from rail to truck and vice versa. This is most commonly used when one mode cannot be used for an entire trip. A good note is that this is different than intermodal, which you might be familiar with if you know of Kansas City region at all. Intermodal is where goods remain in the same standard shipping container for the entire trip. So transloading is different. It's when it moves from one different shipping container or process to another. In general, there are 3 different types of transload facilities. The first one is dimensional. It's something that works for large products. So think things like lumber, steel, large equipment and machinery. Those are things that are typically transported by a flat car or in the back of a truck bed. The next type is warehouse. That's probably what most people think of when they think of freight and transload. That is when you have a variety of different goods on wood pallets that go into boxcars and into tractor trailer trucks. The last type is a bulk facility. This is both dry and liquid goods. Think things like aggregates, sand, asphalt materials, chemicals. Those are the type of bulk goods that are transported by tank cars or kind of an open hopper rail car. You do have two existing transload facilities in the Wichita region right now. They are both warehouse facilities. The one located south of the airport is Garvey Public Warehouse, and then the second one is United Warehouse Company, which is located up near North Junction. Just an overall summary of what the benefits of transloading are. Big picture, it really combines the economic and cost savings of rail transportation with the flexibility of trucking. So you can fit about 3 or 4 truckloads on one rail car, and then rail is also more fuel efficient. So that way you can kind of use both modes of transportation to your advantage as a business. There's also no need to invest in track. Having a transload facility requires or allows several businesses to use that central location and work with a logistics company to move those supplies and goods that they're moving in through truck, not just a direct rail line. This overall allows businesses to increase their market reach using both the expansive rail network as well as the expansive highway network that we have in Kansas and across the country. So that's your transload 101 for the day, to make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page of what we're talking about. And the next few slides are more of the interesting insights that we found through this process. So we conducted what we called industry interviews, which were just conversations with different stakeholders that relate to transload facilities. We spoke with both Union Pacific and BNSF, as well as KDOT and Greater Wichita Partnership, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. At the WAMPO Freight Committee a couple weeks ago, when we presented this, we got a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of some details of these conversations, but I wanted to share 4 key takeaways to this group. The first one is we heard the need to diversify the capability to handle goods. As I mentioned, the 2 transload facilities that are in Wichita today are warehouse type facilities, and there has been some demand for bulk and dimensional goods as well. So as you think about expanding that capacity to handle different goods. The second theme that we heard a lot was conducting a survey to find potential customers. These are businesses that are currently trucking long distances and that could benefit from this conversion to rail. So again, they can use both modes of transportation to the benefit of their company. Another big topic was preserving large sites adjacent to the rail corridors. As most of you can imagine, the main rail corridor that kind of goes through downtown in the core of Wichita is pretty well developed. There's not a lot of large land along those rail corridors right now. So thinking about areas in industrial parks, maybe on the edge of the region or in Bel Air, those were things that we heard over and over from the railroads about land preservation, so that when opportunities arise, the Wichita region can remain competitive for seeking those anchor tenants in those new businesses. And last but not least, offering shovel-ready sites. That has to do with infrastructure, with utilities, that making sure, again, that you can compete with other cities and other regions to provide the things that businesses need. We also tried to nail this down into some action steps for WAMPO. Freight is one of those topics that's interesting because it is much more driven by the private sector than the public sector. You have to work with the railroads, you have to work with logistics companies and business. So it's kind of one of those odd nuances of public-private partnerships being ever more important. So the things that WAMPO has influence over, one of those is directing support and funding for key infrastructure investments. So if you think about identifying those prime locations for land or truck access, WAMPO has the ability to help support that project selection through scoring criteria or involving the WAMPO Freight Committee and other groups in that project selection to make sure that you're prioritizing the things that you want to do. The second is focusing on truck parking and clearance barriers, such as low bridges or weight restrictions. Transload rail is only one half of the equation. The other half is making sure that trucks can get to and from those facilities as well. So we want to make sure that the highway network can support that as well. And lastly, WAMPO serving as an avenue to coordinate between partners. This is something, as members of this committee, you're very well aware of. And making sure that you are inviting the right stakeholders, the right companies, the right private stakeholders, the railroads, to make sure that you're moving forward for these mutually beneficial projects. This is really important when you're talking about corridor studies and trying to identify nodes to advance forward, as well as grant writing efforts, so that you can show that the number of partners and the people that are behind certain efforts. That's a very quick overview of what we presented to the WAMPO Freight Committee, again, just a couple weeks ago. If you are interested in seeing the full presentation, please let Chad know and we'd be happy to send that along. Myself and Sarah Clark, who wasn't able to join us today, are happy to answer any questions or address any comments that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any questions? If not, moving on. Committee report, Regional Freight Committee, Karen.
Karen is unable to come, Mr. Chair, today. I think, yeah, Deanne did a good job in.
Okay, the executive committee, we didn't meet as a whole. We had a Zoom meeting with some of our partners and discussed some of the ongoing budget concerns and staffing concerns, and we'll continue. There again, if any of the members need additional information regarding shifts and responsibilities and changes in staff, please feel free to call either Chad or myself or one of the executive board, Troy, David, Becky, or Mr. Jones. I'm sorry. Anyway, so that's what we did last month. We'll be getting together and discussing this budget some more, and so we can have a good presentation for you next month. Anything else, Dad?
Mr. Chair.
Chad, Troy, Becky, I know David's not here. All right.
Yeah, nothing from the TAC.
But one of the things that we do need to discuss is some of our year-end, expenditures. We've, in the past, last year, we gave year-end money to the North Junction. We have a pretty good loan outstanding from the city of Wichita that we need to start addressing. I'm sure we appreciate what they've done for us, but I'm sure they would appreciate getting some of that money back. So we're hoping to have some additional information to hopefully get us back on the road to paying them, and a better plan on what to do with year-end funds. So with that, Freight Safety Active Transportation Committee, I think you say Sarah's not here, so we're done with that.
Mr. Chair, this
yes,
is Cindy Claycomb.
Yes.
It seemed like we had a policy about what to do with year-end carryover at one point, didn't we?
We never really had a policy. We've actually each year have discussed what to do with the remaining funds pretty much every year. There was one point, and I'm sure you're alluding to the time when we appropriated that money for the North Junction, because that's now come up a few times in discussions lately. But that's not set in stone that it would only go to one place for all future times that we would have leftover money. And I'll tell you, part of what I'm working on, and part of what I think Dan was alluding to, is creating a guideline based on what we've done in the past, for sure, but creating a guideline of how to have the conversation of what to do with that money, so it's nothing new every year. We follow a guideline. Now, not that being said, we have things like, of course, the North Junction, but also Amazon happened to move in this last year or for next year, and there is a need as well for that project, and perhaps some for Derby as well. So we're going to have that discussion, and we're in the process of creating the guideline as a draft that we'll bring to the TPB body as a whole to review, look at, debate, and then vote on at that time. But no, there was no policy.
So I'm not sure that's how I remember it, Troy. And I think Gary Jansen is on the call here on the meeting. If I could have Gary.
Cindy, I think, are you talking about when we discussed the bucket system where we had different buckets of money and we were putting it in? Is that
No,
what?
no.
No? Okay.
And I think
Like,
Gary
can I
is
ask
on
you-
the call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now, if you
thanks.
don't mind, Vice Mayor,
Gary.
I might just. Yeah, so the policy that you mentioned, Troy, you are correct. When we put in place a policy that all the funding went to the North Junction, that was intended to be one time only. If you go back a year before that, there is a policy that was put in place that should still be in place, that both the TAC and the policy bodies spent a lot of time on, including a specific committee. And it focused on funding going to advanced construction first, which is effectively split projects and makes a lot of sense. It allowed sponsors to come in at some point and talk about the idea of needing more funding for a project for whatever reason. I think it did a tremendous job of our goal at the time to leave the approximate $12 million a year in the pot for all members of WAMPO to have the opportunity to compete for. That's always been our goal. The only thing that happened with North Junction is we stepped outside of that temporarily 1 year, and everybody agreed to put that above that policy. I only mention that again, and I'm glad the Vice Mayor asked. I am convinced that there is a policy already in place and that a lot of time could be saved because I think it was a really, really good policy that was already there, and it should be there somewhere.
Okay,
Chad,
Gary,
is that-
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that, but I don't see it in front of me. And it's not part of the documents that we see in front of us. So just finding that, and we have a meeting coming up in January to review, and we'll make sure that that policy then is there, and we'll just review that policy. And if it's good, we're good. But I don't want to just make it up or just try to remember. I'd rather find the actual documentation of it, meeting notes, whatever, and make sure we get it all solid. And if it was voted on back then as a continuing policy forever, I think we'll be fine. And especially if it mirrors what you had just stated it's supposed to do, that is wonderful. But if we can't find it for some reason, then we'll make sure that it's recreated and then adopted as an official policy from this point on. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Gary, by the way, on everything you said.
Yeah, Gary, I appreciate you bringing that forward because now that you discussed that or told us, I'm remembering that yes, we did do quite a bit of work on that in the TAC, and you guys did come up with a policy. But I'm to be quite frank, I have no idea what it is. But you guys did work along several months. I know you and Jim and the TAC committee, and Troy wasn't in charge of the TAC or on the chair of the TAC.
No, I wasn't there at the time.
Yeah, so we'll see if we can
that's
find
an
that,
interesting
or if you
point.
find it and send it to Chad, we would certainly appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. We do appreciate it. So, anything else, Cindy or Gary? If not, KDOT, Wichita Metro, you got anything for us? I don't know who's on with us, but
Tom Hine, I'm
Hi.
on today. I don't have anything specific other than tell you that the document on the gold project that Brent presented earlier is available online, as well as the one that you will receive. It's at wichitakdot.org or Wichita Metro KDOT page. And also on the green project page, there's a link to it. And that address is 235green.org. That's all.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Mike Moriarty, are you here?
I am. I just had a couple of quick personnel items to touch on. So last month, KDOT's longtime director of operations, Larry Thompson, did retire. We actually named 2 folks to take his place. Clay Adams has been named KDOT's director of field operations, and Greg Schieber has been named KDOT's director of project delivery. So very exciting news coming out of Topeka. We were sorry to see Larry go. but Clay and Greg are both quite capable, and we're excited to have them in those roles.
Good. Tell them welcome for us. So,
Will do.
anything else, sir? Anything else? Nope. Okay, Rick, are you here from Feds? Okay, we're going to go out with a no. With that, any other business by any other members?
Rick's
Yeah.
here. Mr.
Rick, you're
Chair, Rick's
muted.
here.
Oh, Rick is here.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm muted on the phone. Yes, I'm here. Okay.
Okay, I thought
Had
you
a couple. Sorry.
that might.
No worries. Couple of updates. First off, in terms of our program after the FAST Act, as I'd mentioned at the previous meeting, we're under a continuing resolution for the federal aid program. Our authority for legislation was extended for a full federal fiscal year out until September 30th, 2021, but our continuing resolution and funding is out until December 11th. So a portion of our normal federal aid fiscal year funding for 2020, which just as an example to Kansas, that's about $416 million. A portion of that out to December 11th has been given to KDOT and obviously flowing down to the MPOs. One, to put in a reminder, and I know that WAMPO is part of our State Transportation Innovation Committee. We will be having our virtual summits for Everyday Counts summits. Our sixth round, that'll be December 8th through the 10th. And I know, Chad, we've been working with you on that. Another key area, we've talked a number of times already in this meeting about the North Junction project, which was a recipient of $21 million in build grant funding. I know that we've been working closely with WAMPO. A key action that will be needing to take place will be the programming of those funds in the TIP and the Kansas STIP. So my folks have been working, I know, with Chad and the WAMPO staff and KDOT on that. And as has been discussed previously, there are a number of requirements with build grants that are different than our standard federal aid. So, we're happy to help with that as that continues to move along. No personnel updates at this point, and that's all I have to report. Any questions for me on this?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Rick.
Yep.
Okay, any other business before the board? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Gary's still